All right, let's get started. Thank you everybody for being here. My name is Zach Snyder and I am a program manager at the nonprofit Solar Oregon. We are a 40-year-old nonprofit that has been educating about solar and other forms of clean energy across the state and across the region. And this is a big event for us every year. It's our annual Go Zero tour. Tour of zero energy homes, which really is in many ways, the future of housing, but it's a future that's here now and really taking off. And so this is just really exciting to be able to share and to be able to learn together about zero energy homes. I am going to walk us through a little bit of introduction to what the event is. You are currently part of the second of two webinars. And today we are going to learn a little bit about the Go Zero tour, about zero energy homes. And then our key focus here today is hearing from 4 of our homeowners. This is half of the sites on the tour. We're going to hear from Gay Walker, Perry Brooks, Amy Warren, and John Mead because they have some great experience with zero energy. We will spend 10 or 11 minutes on each site and answer a few questions while we hear from the presenters. And then at the end of the webinar, we're going to have a longer rolling Q&A. So please get your questions queued up, and I'm going to show us what the Q&A box is in Zoom, where you can ask your questions. But we're here to learn, so bring your creative mind. So the Go Zero Tour 2020, presented by Energy Trust of Oregon. This is a tour that's different from previous tours we've done. Obviously, during COVID, everything that we're doing is virtual. And when COVID hit in March, we are very much a nonprofit that is focused on in-person events. But we've had a lot of success transitioning to virtual events. And our virtual tours really, I think, are, I think that it's been an incredible ability for us to, share stories with a lot of visual content in different formats and still make it a great learning opportunity. So this is a multimedia tour. And like I said, you're part of the second webinar here. We had another webinar last week at the same time. And last week we took a look at 4 sites. This week we're taking a look at 4 other sites. In addition to these webinars, we have an amazing virtual tour experience for you that is put together on a special tour website. And this is a bulk of the event and has a lot of information for you to learn all about these sites and the stories of the site owners or the builders. And so I strongly encourage you. We have video there and narratives. And the link to this is bit.ly/virtual0. So I want to give you a little bit of a preview. Excuse me for a second while I transfer us over to the website here. This is the virtual tour website. We have a little bit of information about the importance of zero. And here you can see that you can explore the tour sites. And this is all across the state: Portland, Ashland, McMinnville, Bend, Wilsonville. And I want to show you one of these in a second. We also have great resources. If you are interested in zero energy and you want to start with your own home and you're not sure where to start, Energy Trust of Oregon has great resources for energy efficiency. And also, if you're interested in solar, they have the perfect place to get started. And those are 2 links that you'll find on the website here. In addition to information about what are zero energy homes and the different aspects of zero energy, as well as information from our title sponsor, Energy Trust of Oregon, who has a lot of incentives and programs that cover all aspects of energy efficiency and solar. So on the site, please check it out. Click on one of the tour sites to see what goes into this site. What are the technical specifications that make this zero energy? Watch the tour videos. We had an amazing videographer who we worked with this year, Keelan Booth, who put together a great visual guide to all of these sites. And you can also read the narratives as written by the site owners. So make sure you check that out. Again, that link is bit.ly/virtual0. We're going to be taking a look at these 4 sites today. One in McMinnville, John Mead's site, Amy Warren and Perry Booth up in Bend have great sites, and Gay Walker, who has a zero energy retrofit in Wilsonville. Thank you so much to our sponsors. We received an extraordinary amount of support this year. Thank you to our title sponsor, Energy Trust of Oregon. And like I said, they have great resources for all aspects of zero energy, which I will show you here in a second. A huge thanks to our zero energy level sponsors as well, Green Hammer Design Build. They have an amazing design build firm, and they do a lot of zero energy work. Neil Kelly, thank you. Neil Kelly does, again, all aspects of zero energy retrofits to solar, and their support is really, really welcome. And finally, thank you to Elemental Energy, a local solar installer who has supported a lot of Solar Oregon's programming. Like I said, Energy Trust of Oregon is our title sponsor, and they provide incentives for solar across the state. They provide resources for energy efficiency, and they have a brand new net zero specification and incentive that builders can follow. And net zero, which is the same thing as zero energy, is really a big thing that Energy Trust supports. So a little bit about Solar Oregon and the work that we do. Like I said, we're a 40-year-old nonprofit focused on solar education. And also community building. So a big thing that we do is provide a basics of solar webinar that we provide all across the state and for localized communities as well. It's a great way to learn about all of the incentives available, how the technology works, and how to get started with solar. We also do a lot of solar tours, like the Go Zero tour, and solarize campaigns where we help whole communities go solar at once. And this is a model that's been really, exploded and being used around the world. But it was invented right here by Solar Oregon. And of course, peer-to-peer education is a huge focus of ours as well, just because storytelling is such a powerful way to communicate the benefits and the intricacies of solar energy. We are a member-based nonprofit, and we draw a huge amount of support from our members. If you are a member, thank you so much for being part of our community and for supporting the work that we do. If you are not a member yet, you can join on solaroregon.org. We're going to drop a link in the chat, and your support is greatly appreciated. Go Zero Tour is part of Sustainable Building Week. This is the second year that we've been part of this great event. Sustainable Building Week this year is fully virtual. It's 2 weeks, and there are green building professionals, design and construction side of things, that come together and share information. Most of the events are free. There's a lot of really interesting topics, a lot to do with how to build sustainably, how to design sustainably, and also about equity in the built environment. We're in the second week of Sustainable Building Week, but there are still great events left, and you can check out what's coming up on www.sustainablebuildingweek.org/events. And Sustainable Building Week has also received tremendous support from a lot of sponsors. So thank you to the sponsors of Sustainable Building Week. And here's just a little overview of the collaborating organizations. Solar Oregon is one of many organizations that has events this year. And you can see it ranges from electric mobility, electric vehicles, to all sorts of building trades presenting information. So the tour, the tour website is a great resource for you to check out on demand. And the reason we have webinars, the reason that we are putting on this show right now, is to give you an opportunity to ask questions and to have a little bit of interaction with the home builders and homeowners, and to learn from them directly. So there are a few tools that the Zoom platform has for us to be able to do this, and one of them is the Q&A button that you can see right here. It says Q&A. You should be able to mouse over the menu, over either in the top or the bottom of your screen, and you can click the Q&A button and enter your question at any point via text. So just write it in there. We will see those questions. Please feel free to ask any question you have about zero energy or the sites that we take a look at. We want questions, and we will, like I said, we'll be answering the questions after each homeowner presents, and also at the end we're going to have a longer running Q&A. Zoom also has a chat function, which you may be familiar with. You can open that up and feel free to express things to us, talk to the community, and anything there that is not a question. If you have a specific question, put it in the Q&A box. The chat is also a place where we are going to be sending out links regarding things that we are talking about. And finally, we're going to be using the polling function in Zoom. This is a great way for us to take the temperature with everybody here on the line. You'll see a dialog box open up like this, and you select either you select a single choice, or there's a multiple choice, and you can click through. So I would like to launch our first poll, and it's one that we have in all of our webinars. I like to learn where all of you are viewing from today. So I'm launching now. This is great information. It helps us to figure out who we're serving as a nonprofit. And I'm very curious where we have people tuning in from today. So go ahead. We've already got over half of the votes in. People seem to know where they're from, which is great. All right, I see the votes leveling off, so I'm going to end the poll and share the results here. This is fully anonymous, but it's great to see we have a majority audience from Willamette Valley area, including Portland, some from the coast, and some from Eastern or Central Oregon. That's great. I have one more poll that I like to launch here right at the beginning. And again, this is to get a sense of who we're serving as a nonprofit. This is voluntary information, also fully anonymous. So please enter this if you would like, because it helps us to tailor our programming. And this will not be shared, just out of privacy. All right, go ahead and wrap up. Looks like we have a lot of votes in. Thank you so much. So, without further ado, let's get started and take a look. What is zero energy? And zero energy is, like I said, you can see it as the future of housing design. You can also think of it as a holistic view of how solar can be used for your home or for your business. Zero energy really simply means that your energy production on site is equal to your consumption. So that means that all of the energy you consume over the course of a year, heating and cooling your home, using your appliances, plugging in your laptop, that is all matched by how much you're producing. And this is really the power of solar, is it allows you to control your energy on site. And so what is special about this? What's different than just looking at solar? Zero energy is really looking at energy efficiency, things like weatherization, things like adding insulation, if that's needed on your site, can really reduce your energy consumption. Having more efficient appliances in your home can really lower your consumption. And of course, if you consume less, you need less solar to power what you're using. And so zero energy is more affordable and accessible, and it's a holistic way to look at the energy you're using. What are the benefits of zero energy? One is that, of course, this may be the first one, the fore of your mind, is that it's when you're using solar to produce your energy and you're producing as much energy as you need, you're cutting out your carbon footprint. And of course, there's that environmental benefit. But there are other really great benefits that you may not think of top of mind when you think of zero energy. One of them is that it can be a really great investment. A lot of people experience high energy burden. They're spending upwards of 100 or 200, sometimes 400, sometimes many hundreds of dollars per month on energy because they have older, less efficient appliances, because they have a home that is not air sealed in a way that allows them to reduce their energy consumption. So weatherization is often a great low-hanging fruit for saving money month after month. Solar is a great investment because it offsets what you're consuming from your utilities. So it offsets your utility costs. And over a long period of time can be a way to build wealth. Another aspect of zero energy homes is that they are often healthier. When you live in a home that is not quite as tight and there is drafty and there's air coming in from the outside, pollutants that are outside, whether that's from automobile traffic or increasingly in the summer in Oregon, are really intense air pollution from wildfire smoke, is a public health hazard. And so not only are zero energy homes better for the environment and better for addressing climate, but they're also healthier to live in and through the effects of increased wildfire. And finally, zero energy homes are more comfortable. It's much more comfortable to not live in a drafty home. They're also quieter because they tend to have more insulation. And so that can be a great benefit that you might not think of. So what does zero energy actually mean in practice? Is there a prescriptive, here's what you do to become zero energy? And the answer is no. You can retrofit an older home to become zero energy. We have a great retrofit project that we're going to hear about today that was consuming a lot of energy and now is zero energy. And again, that's this combination of efficiency and solar. So these are two great resources from Energy Trust of Oregon. You can go to energytrust.org/residential for resources and information about how to start at your site with energy efficiency. And another resource is where to go if you want to get started with solar. So go to energytrust.org/programs/solar. And Energy Trust has an amazing tool to find 3 contractors that are highly qualified in your area that are willing to give you free solar bids. So there's no harm in just learning the solar potential of your home or your site, and nobody can tell you better than a solar contractor. So please check out that resource too if you're interested in solar. And of course, when you are starting a project from the ground up, whether you're a builder or you're a homeowner seeking a new home, the design choices that you make from the ground up can have a huge impact on how much energy that uses. And it's really easy to design a new home that is zero energy. You can start with the insulation in the walls, how the home's constructed, making sure you have roof area for solar on a part of the roof that receives sun. And if you want to learn all about how to get started with a new home, Energy Trust has another great resource here. It's energytrust.org/residential/new-homes-solutions. You can see their new net zero spec. Builders can get information about the incentives available, and it's a great resource there. So hopefully wherever you came in from today, you have a little bit of a sense of what zero energy is and what the benefits are. I am super thrilled to introduce to everybody Gay Walker, who has a retrofit home, and Gay is going to share her zero energy story. Gay, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. Do you want to just take it away?
Okay. Well, thanks, Zach, for having me on. And I want to start with the house itself. In 1994-95, we ended up designing and building a house on about 13 acres in Wilsonville. Turned out to be larger than we imagined because it's a large house. And at the time, we decided that we would put propane gas in as the heating source. That seemed to be the most efficient and the most economical at the time. It ended up powering 2 furnaces, an AC system, 2 hot water heaters, a pool, a stove top, and 2 fireplaces. So we were happy with that until about 10 or 12 years ago, when the cost of propane gas doubled, which was a shock. So we ended up, since the kids were away, gone, ended up not heating the pool, and I ended up wearing a lot more clothes layers, and we kept the house about 58 to 60, which is not what one wants. And I'd always wanted to go green. I have a daughter now living with me who is a philosopher and a teacher and is into certainly sustainability. So that was always on my mind. And I knew that some systems needed help. So repair was needed. We needed to do some air sealing. And I know the water heaters were going to be needing to be replaced. So last year, I decided, since I'd retired about 3 years ago from Reed College, that I would buy an electric car. So I have a Tesla, which I love. We put in a garage plug-in, and electricity became much more important in my mind. So this year, we decided to have an energy assessment. And in February, I had the Portland Home Energy Score people in, Jonathan Roble, who did a very good assessment of the home. I was shocked to learn that 1/3 of our heat was being lost in the crawl space. A lot of ductwork needed to be done. The attic needed to be checked. And of course, the water heaters were at the end of their lives after 25 years. So we always knew that propane was a little dangerous to have anyway. You could smell it when you turned it on. Don't want to have it around when you have an earthquake, for sure. And that it might be possible to go net zero. So we did end up going with Neil Kelly, and they have so much experience with everything. It was very easy to work with them. They did all the permitting, they did all the credits and rebate paperwork, and I have a piece of paper to take to the IRS with me. So it worked extremely well. I thought it was going to be very difficult because it's 2 different projects, really. And so they actually divided it into 2, with the solar part being first and the heating changeover being second. And I thought it was going to be so difficult because all of the heating system needed to be changed over. We didn't really know how much it would cost for electricity because our electric bill was always very small. But the propane, I finally decided during this discussion that we would get rid of it totally. So we've now disconnected the propane tank. No going back on that one. And by June, there were under 2 weeks in June is what it took to put up the solar part. So that went very quickly. We had 64 panels put in to give us a 20 kilowatt peak system and 2 inverters in the garage. And then right after that, the electrician stayed on and we went to the heating part of it and changed over everything in about 3 weeks. It was very easy. They did a lot of air sealing and duct work and crawl space work and put in a heat pump, and the 2 water heaters were changed out for a very large water heater that was run by a heat pump. And there were 2 Mitsubishi ducted mini split systems for the heating and an electrical upgrade for the stove. I did go to an all electric stove, and it was just a very smooth project. I think now I'll probably look at going to batteries in about 5 years and see if they're more efficient and more economical. And I check my app all the time on my phone to see how much energy we're generating. And it turns out that even in the summer months where we had, or the couple of weeks where we had a lot of smoke and where we've had rain, it's always generating electricity. And the app is very good in telling us also that we have offset well over 4 tons of carbon dioxide since August 6th, which is when the system went live. Neil Kelly had PGE come in and they put in a bidirectional net zero meter, a monitor system. And that tells us when we're paying them and when we're storing electricity in the bank. And after getting my first PGE bills after the system was fully functional, I discovered that we were making perhaps 3 times as much energy as we were using. And this was at the end of the summer. So the PGE bills will I'll continue to look at those for a long time to see how it works. But the surprise bonus was that it canceled out for being a return of under 10 years. So we were delighted with that. And I couldn't be more happy with the system. And I thought, since Tyler Doughton is here with us today from Neil Kelly, that he could tell you a little bit more about the technical details. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Tyler Doughton. I'm with Neil Kelly, Home Performance and Solar. And yeah, just to explain the systems that we installed, Gay did a really good job telling the overall story and kind of how, what led to us meeting. And from the first meeting, she was saying, we want to get off gas, we want to reduce the overall energy consumption and produce our own energy. So we just focused on the low-hanging fruit from a home performance standpoint, and the kind of the lowest of low-hanging fruit was the heating systems. There were two 95% efficient propane furnaces, one that served the upstairs, one that served the downstairs, and we replaced those with these Mitsubishi SUZ ducted heat pumps. And they're incredibly efficient, even by heat pump standards. They're HSPF of 13.6 and 11.7 respectively, which is really super efficient. The Energy Trust, just to put that in perspective, the Energy Trust of Oregon, in order to qualify for their heat pump incentive, you have to have an HSPF of 9. So these are, HSPF of 13. That's 50% more efficient than the Energy Trust heat pump requirements. So heating the home with really, really efficient electric heat pumps made a huge difference in terms of the overall energy consumption and the amount of money that Gay was spending on heating the home. So that was a lot of the low-hanging fruit on the home performance side of things. We also replaced the 2 atmospherically venting water heaters with one heat pump water heater, a Rheem 80-gallon heat pump water heater, which has a coefficient of performance rating of like 3.8 or something in that neighborhood, meaning 1 kilowatt of electricity equals 3.8 kilowatts of hot water. So took the water heating system from 58% efficiency up to about 380% efficiency. So obviously that saved a lot of energy right there too. And in Gay's case, the thermal envelope wasn't in too bad of shape. The ducts themselves, there's a good picture of the ducts and the insulation falling off the ducts. The ducts themselves needed a little bit of work. We had to, focus a fair amount of energy on the duct sealing and the duct insulation, kind of tearing off the insulation that had fallen and replacing it, and sealing up the ducts and all the boots and furnaces. You can see the furnace right there that's in the crawl space that was not very well sealed. So just a lot of low-hanging fruit on the duct side of things. And the insulation wasn't too bad. We did re-insulate the crawl space because the insulation was not in contact with the subfloor. So we got some energy savings out of the insulation there. We touched up the attic insulation a tiny bit, did some air sealing as well. So it's a multi-pronged approach. Home performance always is, and every house is different. So getting a home performance contractor in to kind of help you create a roadmap of sorts for how to reduce the energy is definitely a big part of going net zero. And then, so that's kind of the home performance side of things. A lot of the low-hanging fruit was the heat pump water heater, and focusing on the ducts. Those were the kind of the big 3 where we saved a lot of the energy. And we were able to take the modeled expected energy consumption and cut it more than in half. I think we cut something like close to 60% of the energy consumption off of Gay's overall expected energy consumption. So that's remarkable. And then from there, we started designing a solar array. And in Gay's case, she had a really big roof that was, the entire roof was over, I think the lowest spot was about 73% TSRF all the way up to about 80% TSRF. And TSRF is just the solar resource factor. So a really, really good roof. It's really large, as you can see, made for a relatively easy install of the solar array. And so we ended up putting in a 20.48 kilowatt solar array. We use SILFAB modules that are made in Washington. And we put in 2 solar edge inverters. So the solar edge inverters have the power optimizers. So each module is effectively isolated from the rest of the string. So if you get shading on one part of the array, it doesn't impact the production on the rest of the array. So an efficient heating system, in the ductwork and the water heaters, and then a large solar array. And we were able to take Gay's overall energy consumption from, I think it was 212 million BTUs down to 0. I mean, 0 energy consumption. So really cool project. Gay was really easy to work with. And yeah, it was a lot of fun to be a part of this.
That's amazing. Gay and Tyler, thank you so much. This, to me, is such an inspirational project, and I'm so glad to have it on the tour, because years ago, not too many years ago, zero was kind of a pioneering thing, zero energy, and to see a home that was not designed originally with energy efficiency in mind. It's a little bit of an older home, not super old, but it's a big home, right? And to see that is something that can go zero energy, and it works from a homeowner perspective. It works technically. Nothing was invented for this project. It's all out of the box solutions. And so, yeah, thank you so much, Gay and Tyler. I hope that everybody in the audience, everybody watching now, this is getting your gears spinning. Maybe you have a home and you're wondering how you go about assessing it. And Gay, you mentioned the home energy score. That's a pretty, very inexpensive way to figure out where your home is, right? Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, that's a great resource. And of course, plenty of places to get started here. I just want to make space for a couple of questions from the audience. So please get them in the Q&A box right now. If you have a question for Gay, if we don't get to it right now, we're going to answer that in the rolling Q&A at the end. So first question we have is Gay, and maybe Tyler, you want to speak to this. How did you air seal the interior of the house?
I'll let Tyler go with that one.
So the blower door number was surprisingly not too bad. I mean, it's a large house with a lot of kind of cool architectural details. The more complicated the architectural design, oftentimes the more air leakage there happens to be. Not always, but so anyways, when we ran the blower door, the number wasn't too bad. So we really focused on the lowest of the low-hanging fruit from an air sealing perspective, which is, plumbing chases, ducts, electrical chases. But we didn't have to budget a tremendous amount of money for air sealing in this case. Good question. And I'm happy to answer more specifically later or offline or whatever.
Great. Gay, maybe you can speak to this. What is the overall budget and timeline for your project?
Okay. The timeline was faster than I thought it would be. And there were delays at the very beginning because COVID was making everybody change their routines. So altogether, it certainly wasn't more than 5 weeks from start to finish. And maybe 1 or 2 details at the end that had to be fixed because I had my counter that was the opening was too small for the new stove, of course. So we had to take care of that. But the budget was, I think the entire thing came in just under 100,000. And maybe half of that was solar. The the air duct sealing, insulation, weatherization was about 12,000. Hot water heaters, 5,500. And the heating system was about just under 30,000. So I would have had to have spent a good bit of money to redo the hot water heaters and get the furnaces working well and the ducts sealed, etc. So I was just amazed that it would pencil out in 10 years. Wasn't expecting that. And I wasn't really expecting to go to fully to net zero. So all in all, I think the benefits were incredibly great on this one. And also, how to become more sustainable and live more sustainably is terrific. It was a good project.
That's fantastic. And so, when you're talking about your path to zero, about half that upfront cost was the solar. And so just looking from kind of a low-hanging fruit side of it, there was a lot of it that was not, part of that large budget size. And really the key way to think about a zero energy retrofit like this is that there's financing available, and it saves you money every single month going on into the future. The energy efficiency side and the solar side, because you're offsetting your consumption. And so there are plenty of financing tools available. And so sometimes you can get it to be really a very small monthly payment if you have the way to wrap it into financing well. So even though it's that number sounds big, right? Like almost $100,000, like it's a lot of money. But with a payback in 10 years, it becomes, and with financing, it becomes something that is a small incremental thing each month. And that in the long run, you will actually save a ton of money compared to had you not done anything in the first place.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of the way to think about zero energy. It's investment, and it's when you can get financing for.
Yeah, because like you said, Zach, if you finance the project, we could have been cash flow positive from day one in this particular case. And there is no fluctuation. I mean, that's going to stay at zero. Her electricity bill, her energy bill overall is going to be at zero for a long, long, long time. Whereas the price of propane was jumping all over the place and hard to budget for, I would imagine.
Yeah. So, and I really want to we're going to move on in just a second, but what you're saying, cash flow positive, what does that mean? Because that's really an amazing thing that you can get to cash flow positive, and people should be able to internalize what that means actually to them, and the fact that it might be possible for them. So what does that mean?
Great question. It's basically with the right loan. We didn't finance this project. Gay didn't finance this project, but we have loans that go all the way out to 20 years, energy efficiency loans with really good interest rates and no upfront fees, no early prepayment penalty. So with a loan like that, we could have actually had the loan payment would be less money than the energy savings. The energy savings we're projecting in this case are, $700 a month or something like that, because propane was getting so expensive. And so we could have gotten a monthly payment on a project like this well below that $700 a month. So maybe $400 a month or something like that. So, I mean, from the first year, you're cash flow positive if you find the right loan on a project like this, which is pretty cool.
It's not even a financial question of can you afford it. It's just, can you get the ducks in a row to get the financing and do it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you guys so much. We're going to move on and check out 3 more projects. We've got a number of questions in the Q&A still for this site. And if you asked a question, we will answer that at the end in the rolling Q&A. So thank you. Keep those questions coming if you have more questions for Gay's site. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks.
All right, so I am excited now to introduce Perry Brooks. Perry is a builder up in the Bend area who is starting a new venture, and it's all about developing net zero. And when I first saw Perry's site and I heard Perry talk, I just got super excited. This is a great example, and I think it's really interesting. So Perry, you're gonna do a little live walkthrough for us, right?
That I am. I'm going to do a little walkthrough. Again, my name is Perry Brooks. I'm a builder in Bend, Oregon. This is our first adventure in building net zero. And with this particular project, we're building a net zero single family residence and with an ADU. They're both spec. And how I got here, I went to architecture school. I graduated 23 years ago. I initially went to architecture school to do sustainable single family design and kind of fell off track and did municipal park planning and development work for the last 23 years and felt as though this was the right time to do it. Seems like to do net zero, to build net zero. There's a lot of momentum coming in behind it and it seemed like the right time. And with that, let me turn the screen around if I can. Kind of give you a run through of the house. So this is the house on 14th and Albany in Bend, kind of downtown, older section of Bend. As we mentioned, we definitely used the EPS program. We went through early design review for both the house and the solar to leverage the incentive from Energy Trust. And the house will eventually be zero energy certified by Earth Advantage. The house is a very conventional house in that it's a great house. It's just better than other houses being built in the area because it is net zero. And Zach had mentioned before all the other things about net zero. Off to the side, real quick, there's our heat pumps for both the house and the ADU. The windows are all triple paned with a U of 1.9. The most interesting thing about the house, I really thought, was how we built it. We didn't use traditional construction methodology at all. We use what are called SIP panels. And SIP panels are rigid insulation sheathed between 7/16 OSB for most of the walls. Now, where there are structural components, they do have structural wood in there to support the ridge beams and other components. So in the house, we have both 8-inch walls and 6-inch walls. The 8-inch walls are R42 and the 6-inch walls are R38. The roof is also SIP panels and they're 12 inches thick and they are an R52. We are heating and cooling the house with ductless mini splits. There are 5 mini splits in the main house and 1 in the ADU. And we're getting our makeup air and taking our exhaust air out with an ERV. And we have 5 heads in the house, each in each bedroom and 2 in the main room. And as we go over, again, we're all electric. So we are also using an induction stove, which by comparison is far superior now to gas. It's more controllable, significantly more so. As far as cost, we really felt, there's a lot of conjecture that building net zero or energy efficient is anywhere from 5 to 10% more expensive. We found, especially using the SIP panels, that our takeoffs for doing a stick frame house would have been $69,000, and that's just having the wood delivered. And then our SIP panels being designed, engineered, and delivered was $72,000. Felt as though we had a huge cost saving there, as well as the time in which it took to put the panels up. If we would have a full framing crew for about 3.5 weeks, we could have both the house and the ADU up with the internal framing done, as opposed to probably, we're in the midst of finalizing a lot of stuff, building decks and putting in pavers, as you can see. Go around back to, there's a lot of noise going on around here. So the SIP, the solar panels, we have an 11.7 kW on both the house and the ADU, which is 37 panels. We have enough generation to power the house and power an electric vehicle for 15,000 miles a year. The system itself was about $29,000 with the incentive from energy, or the tax incentive the owner will save about $7,000. And so the overall system, I believe, about 21,000 with an ROI of about 7.5 years. And that's kind of it. That's the quick summary and tour of the house. And we'll take any questions now.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Perry. Yeah, I thought the SIP panels were really interesting, and it shows that there's not a single solution or a single design way to get to zero, right? Even when you're building fresh, there are really so many different choices you can make, and like you're saying, the choices that you made are ones that allowed you to keep the cost down. And something that I thought was really great was that you told me that appliances that are less efficient, kind of the standard norm of appliances, choosing between that and choosing between efficient appliances, it's really about a wash, right? And any extra cost is a little bit there for solar financing for it, but it's really a no-brainer to choose something that you're going to pay less for every single month.
Correct. I totally agree. One thing I failed to mention was the house ceiling. We did aero barrier both the house and the ADU. With the main house, we didn't seal any of the seams between the SIP panels, anticipating the aero barrier. We started off with a 5.5 ACH on the house, and we got it down to a 0.6. And the ADU started out as a 4.2, and we got it down to a 0.3. So those are very tight houses.
Yeah, and just for folks who are not very numbers or technical oriented, this is talking about, you know, how tight is the house, how much air is it going to let in and out. Typically, the more efficient it is in terms of heating and cooling. And one question that we've got a few questions here, but one thing I wanted to ask you about is, you mentioned you have a heat recovery ventilator.
Yes.
Can you describe what that is just for a second?
The ERV is a way in which to get the air to circulate in through the house. It's so tight that it won't breathe, so you really have to make the house breathe for itself. And with the ERV, the exhaust air goes through a ceramic cylinder that will capture a lot of the heat. And then when the fans are reversed and the heat is being brought back in, or the air is being brought back in, it goes through over that cylinder and will blow a lot of that heat back into the house, so there's not a lot of wasted heat coming in and out of the house. And that ERV will cycle on and off every 90 seconds or so.
Great. Yeah, so that's one thing that you can do typically in just in new homes when you're building fresh, zero energy. So we have a question here. Are the SIP panels sustainable? What is the adhesive and what happens if it burns?
Good question. The SIP panels, as far as burning, they are carbon infused, which adds to the R value, but also acts as a fire retardant. So they are extremely hard to burn. We actually, a lot of the times you have to burn out the foam to get to the hold downs and some other components within the wall, and they give you a heat gun, and you melt out the EPS, and it never catches on fire. As far as the sustainability of the EPS is 100% recyclable, and what they don't use up in the factory up in Puyallup, Washington, they just reuse on the next project. So, and there are ways in which to recycle the EPS. Unfortunately, in Deschutes County, you can't do that. So we did have a small amount of EPS, or the foam waste. And the glue is a completely environmentally friendly glue. How they adhere, in the adhesion of the sheathing to the foam itself. And then we also are supplied with a SIP seal, which is also environmentally friendly. I can't really explain the exact why they're so sustainable, but there are there's a lot of information on the Premier Building Systems website as far as how sustainable the SIP panels are.
That's fantastic. Another question here is this a spec house? Do you expect a premium on the sales price?
So it is a spec house, and yes, yeah, it is a spec house, and we expected a premium on the sales price, and we exceeded what we anticipated getting. And part of it is we believe that because it was net zero, and the people who bought the house did their research on what net zero meant, and it meant enough to them to be able to, give us over asking price.
Did you get a lot of interest in the buying process when people were getting in touch with you?
We didn't really market the house at all. We put a sign up. Our realtor put a sign up. We didn't really want to get too far ahead of ourselves and sell the house and then have to make a bunch of changes and go from a spec house to a custom house. So we didn't really do any marketing at all. As far as whether people knew it or not, that it was or was not net zero, it's hard to say.
Yeah, great. Let's take one more question, and I think this is a good one that'll kind of illuminate one of the technologies you mentioned, aero barrier. So the question is, did you tape the SIP seams? What kind of air barrier did you use over them?
We did not tape the seams. That was very intentional, knowing that we were going to use the aero barrier. And the reason why we did that, there's a builder up in Bellingham, Washington, Ted Clifton Jr., and they build only SIP houses. They build about 8 to 10 a year. And he started experimenting with using aero barrier a couple years ago. And he found that it was a better seal, it was less expensive, and it certainly was not nearly as messy as taping all the seams, because it's a pretty diligent process. So by using the aero barrier, we took the human error out of it. So we let the house use the air and and forcing the air in and out with the insulation to seal up all those holes. And so it really was kind of an economic, but also a more practical approach to sealing the house.
And an aero barrier, what is that experientially like? Like when you install it, what do they do?
Well, let me see if I can botch aero barrier's business plan here. It's basically you're putting pressure, you're blowing air into the house, and then you aerosolize this. I'm not sure what it is, but it's an atomized insulation. So you put emitters in each of the rooms, and you basically push air into the house, and so that atomized acrylic insulation goes and fills up all the holes. Every nook and cranny that is possible. Almost all of them. They can go up to a half an inch. A half an inch is kind of a big hole. You really want to go back through the house first and spray foam most of the hole, the bigger gaps that you have. But again, it's just you're forcing air into the house and emitting this, releasing the stuff into the air, and it just kind of goes, sucks into all the holes and seals the house up.
Very interesting.
Sorry, aero barrier. That was really bad.
Great. Well, thanks so much. We do have a couple other questions here, but we are going to hit those in the rolling Q&A just to move on here and make time for other presenters. But Perry, I love the live walkthrough, and I think your site is so interesting. So thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Next, I would like to introduce Amy Warren, also in Bend. And Amy is with the Core Community Land Trust. This site, we're looking at sites, really caught my eye because of the aspect of kind of communal siting, and also that it's affordable, and just the power of zero energy being such a strong economic benefit to people, and putting that into affordable housing is really great. So Amy, go ahead and take it away.
Awesome, thanks, Zach. So I'm going to share my screen because I knew if I did something like Perry did, I would, I'm very clumsy, I would end up tripping, probably, A, and B, I would probably make you all nauseous. So we're doing a slideshow. There we go. Okay. So my name is Amy Warren. I am the co-founder and also the executive director of Core Community Land Trust. I have this slide up here today because this is my team. Currently, if I put all of our past board members on there as well, it would not fit on the slide. I just wanted to point out that because I'm here today doesn't mean that this organization was completely brought off the ground by me. We have an awesome working board and a great team. So CORE's mission, we're a community land trust first off, and our mission is to provide environmentally friendly and affordable homeownership opportunities to those who contribute to the fabric of the Bend area community and economy. We were founded in 2014. We got nonprofit status in 2015 and we were able to purchase our first piece of land in 2018, which is the one we'll be talking about today. First off, I kind of wanted to go over just, a high level what a community land trust is for those of you who are not familiar with that term. It's a nationally recognized nonprofit model. There are about between 300 and 400 of them in the United States. It's a time-tested, proven solution to affordable housing. They've been around for over 50 years. The overarching concept is trust ownership of land and individual ownership of homes. So how this works is that buyers purchase their home. They have a 99-year long-term ground lease on the parcel that their home sits on. That ground lease gives them many benefits to the land that they can use as if it were their own. It also comes with a resale formula. So when the home is sold, it's done with a shared equity formula. Some equity goes with the homeowner and some equity stays with the trust. This is the one thing that ensures that the home is affordable in perpetuity. In addition to that, there are a couple of things that make a community land trust a community land trust as opposed to an organization that just uses a land lease model. Besides for the ones we've already gone over, we have a tripartite governance structure. So 1/3 of our board is made up either of homeowners, people who live in the trust homes, or in our case where we're just building our first homes, 1/3 of our board is made up of representatives of the income demographics that we serve. Really the biggest thing to all of this is the perpetual affordability. Our homes are they don't fall out of affordability after 20 years or after so many sales. Any subsidy that comes into this project in any donation of materials or supplies is really lasts the life of the home. So why environmental sustainability and zero energy are part of our values? Well, what drives our organization can really be looked at as kind of a three-legged stool. One of those legs is affordability, one is sustainability, and the other is equity. For me, you know, my story, I was in an energy generation class I was completing an energy systems engineering degree before I started this nonprofit. And in one of my energy generation classes, we were examining the energy usage as it relates to buildings. And when you look at consumption as it, you know, versus the population increase over time, it begs the question of like, well, what if as our population grows, instead of needing to increase our power production, we can develop and build zero energy homes that don't further tax the power production capacity in our environment? We took this one a step further and said, well, what if we could do that affordably? So what are the benefits of the energy efficiency to the individual? Zach covered some good ones, some good benefits of energy efficiency. And I think these are probably more pertain to the individual and the household occupant. So obviously there's a reduced or no energy bill. And another big one is that it insulates from future increases in energy costs. We are lucky in Oregon to have pretty low energy rates for our power, but that's not always going to be the case. And health and well-being. So as I said, the third leg to our stool is equity. And the way the lens we're looking at equity in as it pertains to energy is really in the context of income and energy equity. So we're asking the question, should these benefits of energy efficiency be afforded only to those with means? Or should zero energy be the standard sustainable way we develop housing for all humans? I personally think that zero energy should be the base building code. And, you know, my co-founder in this venture, when we decided to create CORE, we didn't start with the affordability side. We started with the zero energy side. And he said, well, I will only do this if it's not a product for the elite, if it's something that, you know, our peers can afford, who are teachers and essential workers and, you know, that kind of thing. We didn't want to just build these communities that only a small amount of the people could afford. So, I do hope that everyone got on to the Zero Energy site, because Keelan did an awesome job with the tour video, and much better job than I would have done if I tried to do what Perry did. The homes are 1,100 square feet, so they're, you know, small cottages. They're 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Cute modern farmhouse design. They have visitability standards, which basically means that someone with limited ability could completely function on the downstairs area. There's general, like, great room space, living, an accessible bathroom, and a bedroom downstairs. The community, it was developed using a cottage cluster code, so it's centered around a common area that is shared, and we're hoping to water the majority of that with gray water reuse, and in combination with some zero and low water landscaping. So how are we getting to zero? This is a picture, I think, from end of last week. So we have our roofing on, and we're starting insulation on Monday. We really started with our quest to zero by doing as many passive things that we could, because we knew that these are the things that are going to last the life of the home. And as the organization that stewards the homes and the land in perpetuity, it's in everyone's best interest to start with passive. So for our wall systems, we went with staggered stud framing. For our installation, that gives us about an R31. We started out in our energy modeling with higher insulation in the walls, we were looking at about 1.5 inches of spray foam and then blow in. After modeling the aero barrier product and where that put our air changes per hour, thank you, Perry, for the introduction to that, the aero barrier product. We were incredibly surprised at how much less insulation we needed to get to our zero energy goals after using the aero barrier product, just by making a tight home. We have windows that are of U value 0.22 to 0.25. Aero barriers goal, we've modeled 1 air change per hour, but our goal is for less. We're using heat pump hot water heaters, ductless mini splits, and because of the small nature of the home and that they are so insulated, we worked with Bruce Sullivan from Base Zero and Mitsubishi to establish that we really only needed a one-headed system as long as we had a way to transport that air to the different spaces. We have in-wall ERV systems, 100% LED lighting, and energy efficient appliances. For our active system, everything we could not cover through our passive strategies, we have a 5.12 kilowatt solar array that will go on the roofs. So how did those passive building strategies change our energy profile? You can kind of see here the difference between what a minimum code built home was modeled at and what our core homes are modeled at after the upgrades. And the percent difference was about 43%, which we were pretty happy with. So I think a question that people have a lot is, like, how are we able to do this on an affordable housing budget? And this here is a page of shout outs and really one of the reasons we can do this. We have had incredible community support and kind support from a lot of local trades, particularly. And I'll move to the next slide. As you can see, a lot of the stuff, a lot of our upgrades were covered by that. One of the big ones, our framing lumber, our local lumberyard building solutions, they went out and got all of our framing package for us at cost. So the entire difference just in that, they saved us about $25,000 in the 5 homes. They also helped us with the windows and the doors. So the total was right around $40,000 that they saved us. Now, not all of that was directly related to energy, but if we're saving in our general building envelope, we can put that money towards some of these upgrades. So for each house, it was just a little bit over $30,000 total upgrades from a base code house. And we've raised a lot of that. Not all of it quite yet, but the solar is going up regardless. Our next project as the Community Land Trust is another 5 cottage development here in Bend. It will also be net zero. And these homes are going to be a little bit smaller. They're about 900 square feet. And I don't know if anyone on today is from Washington, but this was one of the cottage communities up there that really inspired what we're doing layout wise, and the value that the community brings to the table. That's all I got, Zach.
That's fantastic. Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I think that your site is so clearly centered around humans and the experience of the people who are going to be there, and that's really, I think, permeates everything about your organization. And that's probably the beauty of the Community Land Trust in general, and obviously partially what you personally bring to it, and your perspective and framing there when you started CORE. But this is so exciting to me to see examples where, you know, zero energy, like you're talking about, is accessible, and it's not just the community land trust side, which is a big part, and obviously all the design aspects that you brought to it, but these folks won't be energy burdened, right? They're going to be saving there. It's not just the upfront cost of the home; it's the cost of living in it too. And so these benefits of zero energy, you know, are massively powerful and important, I think, when you bring them to actually addressing human needs. So I was definitely super inspired. I think you gave an amazing slideshow, and like you said, Keelan also did a great video. So just going to remind folks that you know, that website's there. I'm going to drop that link in the chat later on after our final presentation. But we've got time just for 1 or 2 questions here for Amy. So if anybody has questions about this project or about CORE, go ahead and put them in the chat. Yeah, I think what do you think that this is possible? Like, do you see the benefit of zero energy through a community land trust model being, is that possible to deploy that on a large scale? Is there more possibility for community land trusts? And is that kind of like an untapped potential?
I think it's one of the best affordable housing solutions out there. Personally, I'm sort of biased though. Portland does have one. They serve, I think, 3 communities up there. Washington, Multnomah, one more. It's escaping me. But yeah, I mean, I think the beauty of the community land trust is that it's affordable in perpetuity. It's not, these homes will always be affordable.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead. If you are thinking of a question, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. We're going to move on to our final presenter, and any questions you have about Amy's site, we'll do in the final Q&A rundown. But Amy, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you.
All right. Last but certainly not least, I want to introduce John Mead. John is, you know, has had a career as a builder. He's transitioning away from that to work on another venture, but he built his own home in McMinnville and has experience building low and zero energy homes. And John's site is really interesting, not just from its energy perspective, but also from its water perspective, looking holistically at a site and making it as good as possible. So John, thanks for being with us, and go ahead. You're on mute, but if you take it off mute, let's go ahead and roll.
Can you hear me now? Hello. Welcome everybody to beautiful McMinnville, Oregon. It's a gorgeous night tonight, sunny and just a little bit of brisk autumn weather out here. We're on the rooftop of Hatchie-Dory, our house. Live here with my beautiful wife, Jenny Berg, and we built this house with a couple things behind it. You know, our youngest daughter is going off to college, empty nest. We lived in an old historic house that we had done some energy retrofits to, but we wanted to downsize with just the 2 of us, and also I've been involved in green building since 2005, so I wanted to apply some of the things that I've been doing for years to our own home. So the first net zero home that I built was in 2009 in Happy Valley for solar. Things have changed in the years that have passed since 2009. In those days, we kind of had to go through efforts to get home to net zero. Solar was you know, less expensive than it had been, but still pretty expensive. And so we had to go, you know, triple pane windows, super air sealing, a lot of foam insulation, and heroic efforts to build the house. And then the homeowners had to go to heroic efforts to use it in a way that was very energy efficient and monitor their energy usage. And they're very meticulous about that. And that story has changed a little bit now. Still apply a lot of the same principles that back then, but the price of solar has dropped so much that, you know, for us, the equation for the windows, for example, we didn't go to triple pane windows. We did beautiful Marvin wood windows, double pane, knowing that we could add another couple solar panels, and that was more cost effective than going to triple pane windows for us. So for us in our climate, that was the decision that we made. So the product efforts is this home very modern in design, very, very energy efficient in the build. We're up here on the flat rooftop where we have our solar array. We have 18 modules that were installed by Elemental Energy, 6.48 kilowatts. And we have 10 panels on this lower roof and 8 panels on the roof section above me. Lever racking system. It's a ballast.
Have a little bit of a network dip here. But John is
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Dallas did. We can kind of hear you. It's cutting. It looks like you're good now. So yeah, go try for it.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry about the technical difficulties, everybody. So we're doing a planted roof, 6 inches of ProGrow intensive media. Our plants are actually arriving tomorrow, and our solar panels sit on top of that. And, part of that soil is doing a few different functions for our home. One is that it's moderating the temperature that the house sees. And so our insulation and heating systems don't have to work as hard because our daytime, nighttime temperatures kind of moderate and average out with this soil. It's also filtering our water. We're doing rainwater collection on this house. You'll see the tanks a little bit later, but we're collecting water off of this roof, and the soil is actually the first filtering medium for the water that's coming off of the roof. So we're getting as much use out of this planted roof, as well as being kind of a garden space on the rooftop. So we're gonna mute for a second and go downstairs and catch right back up to you.
Great. And I am just gonna share a screen for a second, and we can take a look at a photo of John's outdoor kitchen, which is a really interesting design. Not necessarily energy feature, but a really cool part of the house. And I love the aspect of the green roof plus solar, like John was talking about, having the solar on top of the plants there. Is actually a big trend, having solar and green roofs together. So looks like John's positioned, so we can go back to John now.
Okay, welcome back to Hachidori. So, you know, part of the design and build for us is, you know, we put a lot of our time and energy into the house, but also the embodied energy of all the products that went into this house. And so we wanted to build this house very durably and very beautifully. Durability for long-lasting materials and beauty, so that those materials will be taken care of over the, you know, hopefully hundreds of years that they're going to last. So you can see as we pan around the house, the design by Matt Davey of MO Davey Design, landscape design by Brian Bailey of Ecotone Design, being put in by Aspen Creek with the rain gardens. One of the unique features that is part of the house is the siding is what's called Shoshugiban siding, and that is process by which we burn the board. So this is cedar that was custom milled by Casters Custom Cutting in Molalla, Oregon. All the boards and battens, we flamed each and every one of them on all sides, and then sealed them with linseed oil, and then put them up. Our walls are 7 inches thick. Our primary wall. And then outside of that 7 inches, we have 3 inches of mineral wool insulation. So 10 inches total insulation on our walls. And then a rain screen, and then the Shoshugi bond, which will be rot resistant, bug resistant, flame resistant. So it should be a very, very long lasting product, as well as being striking and unique. And then as we come forward to the house, you can see part of the design of our home is that we built small. We're about 1,450 square feet. And if you can build small, it really helps reduce your energy envelope. But it's important for the design to while being small, to actually live larger than it is. And the way that's accomplished is, Matt Davey designed some view tunnels through the house, so you can actually feel like you're connected to the outdoors while you're in some not so big spaces. So come on into the kitchen and we'll continue the tour. Okay, so welcome to the inside of the house. We're here at the kitchen, where we have a hot pad. So just a striking design. You'll see some grills up on the wall, and people have been talking about heat pumps for their house, and that's definitely the way to go to accomplish that energy efficiency. In this case, we're actually doing ducted heat pumps. People think of the modern mini split heat pumps as only being ductless. You can actually get ducted versions of the mini splits. So in a clean design where you don't want to have a wall unit, you can actually hide them in the ceiling, in the walls, and just have kind of traditional registers. In addition to doing the mini split heat pumps, we have a heat pump water heater, very affordable, great way to heat your water. As we come over to the beautiful copper backsplash, you'll also see the induction oven or cooktop. All of our appliances and all of the power to the site are electric. We don't have any gas, we don't have any propane. And so all of our power needs are met by our solar array. We're going for Earth Advantage certification, net zero, working with Ryan Shanahan, whose home was on the tour, to get that certification. We just passed this week our building inspection, so we're moving to the next steps to get that net zero certification completed. But you can see the view into the house that we also have a view tunnel through the house this way to the outdoors that way, and really makes the house livable while being compact and lowering our overall footprint. So come on, we'll go up to the backyard and one of my favorite parts of the house. Okay, here we are at the outdoor kitchen. So this last December, I sold my construction company, half of my construction company, and started up a new venture, Vesuvian Forge Concrete, and we're looking at low carbon footprint concrete products. So using different mixes to really reduce the embodied energy and the carbon emissions associated with our concrete products. But you can see the outdoor kitchen with a wood-fired grill here. And then as we come around, you'll see our garden beds. So our raised garden beds, so you can just stay there, just to keep the Wi-Fi coming. Our raised garden beds actually sitting on top of our rainwater tank. So each one of these beds is 3 feet up off the ground, and the concrete tanks we set 18 inches off the ground to give us another 18 inches of soil, and then our gardens just sit on top of the lids of the rainwater tank. So between the 3 tanks that we have here, there's 9,000 gallons of rainwater collection, and our calculations, if they hold up, is that that 9,000 gallons will give us 100% of our water needs throughout the year. And like a net metering situation for solar, we are hooked to the municipal water supply as a backup, so we can turn off the tanks and clean them out periodically, do maintenance, and have that backup supply. So we love having our garden beds here. We pick our vegetables, take them over to our outdoor kitchen where I have a little rinse sink, grab some herbs out of the herb garden, wash them off. The water from our outdoor sink just goes into a little rain garden. We cook up our vegetables, and of course compost just goes right back out to the corner of the yard. So I think that's our tour. Thank you very much for joining us.
John, that's just absolutely fantastic. Thank you for the great tour, and the things that really impressed me right off the bat, and that I think are such a great educational value for the tour, are that you're not only zero energy, electricity, but you're aiming for zero water, and all the little design aspects of the home when it comes to your view tunnels, allowing it to be livable even though it's a small design. I hope that this gives folks a lot of ideas who are considering zero energy, or who wonder if zero energy is livable. So really, really great to have you on the tour. And so please, if you have questions for any of the homeowners, we're going to focus here for John for a couple questions, but we're going to, after John, step into our rolling Q&A. So anything about zero, you can ask about solar, the question you think that's probably not so important in the back of your mind, bring it to the front, put it in the Q&A box, and we will answer all the questions right now. John, our first question that we have right now was, who is your HVAC contractor?
Our HVAC contractor was Woodward Heating out of Salem, Oregon, and I've worked with them on a number of projects over the years, and they do just a fantastic job.
That's great. Another question just came in for you. The question, and you can interpret it how you want, it's what about gray water and black water? I guess, yeah, it's asking, do you have any features for how you use gray water or black water?
So we are not collecting, we're connected to the sewer. And so gray water, black water goes down the drain. Other than our outdoor kitchen, our gray water from our outdoor kitchen goes into a little rain garden there for a little bit of irrigation. Because of the rainwater collection, we think we're getting 100% of our water needs and did not need to go to the gray water route to pull some of that. An interesting fact on the utility bills, that our sewer charges actually go along with our water meter charges. So we're actually kind of getting free sewer service because of our rainwater collection. So it's just a little interesting bonus.
That's interesting, yeah. What a great incentive for considering a zero water setup if you're able to. We have another question here. Someone wants to know, again, the name of the siding, the flamed siding.
Yeah, so the siding is called Shou-Gi-Ban. It's spelled S-H-O-U. And note, it's 3 words. The next word is Shugi, S-U-G-I. Third word is Ban, B-A-N. So you can look that up online, and there's lots of tutorials on how to make this siding yourself. It can also be purchased from a few sources around Oregon.
That's great. So here's a question for you. You know, a lot of our viewers in different parts of the state, you may be a customer of one of the large investor-owned utilities, the Pacific Power or the Portland General Electric. But there are a ton of utilities in Oregon. There's some very small ones in communities. And McMinnville, you guys have McMinnville Power and Light service. Are you on McMinnville Power and Light? And how did that affect your solar project and your decision to go zero energy?
So we are customers of McMinnville Water and Light. And so that actually excluded us from utility incentives for the solar portion of our house. And their theory is, hey, we're mostly hydropower with a contract with Bonneville administration. Our viewpoint is when we reduce a kilowatt being used in McMinnville, they're not going to turn off the dam. They're going to turn off a gas power plant somewhere will be reduced by a kilowatt. So somewhere there will be a reduction. at a power plant, we don't think it's going to be the dam that turns down their usage. That energy will go somewhere else. So our goal wasn't as much financial with the solar, but more the impact on the planet and what we're going to leave behind for future generations.
Okay, great. All right, so John, thank you so much. We're gonna move into our rolling Q&A. And we've got some questions lined up in the Q&A box. Keep them coming. And if we still have Gay and Tyler, we have a couple questions we didn't get to for you earlier. So someone has asked, Gay, were you able to access rebates or incentives for your project? This is your energy retrofit.
Yes, we did do that. And luckily, I didn't even have to look at it because Neil Kelly got all the paperwork together and got it together for us. So Tyler can probably talk to it better than I can.
Yeah, we were, so the upfront cost was close to $100,000 before incentives, but we were able to get Gay in under the state rebate, the solar state rebate that existed at the time, which paid for almost $5,000. So this was originally, there's kind of a story behind the incentives there. But we got the Energy Trust incentive at $2,400 for the solar. The state rebate originally, that was, again, close to $5,000. And you know, there was some discounts on the equipment on the home performance side of things. So total, I think the out of pocket ended up being closer to $80,000, and the incentives paid for a large portion of it. And then, of course, I'm sorry, there's the federal tax credit for the solar as well that paid for 26% of the project.
That's great. And Gay, and maybe Tyler, but probably Gay, how in-depth was your home energy assessment? You were talking about Portland's home energy score.
Mm-hmm.
Did they do a blower door test? Do you know what they did?
Yeah, I should. I was there. I think the major focus was on seeing where the air leaks were. So the weatherization part was a big part of it. And I don't think they did a blower door test because Tyler, didn't you do that through Neil Kelly?
We did, yeah. Originally, Jonathan didn't do a blower door, but he looked at insulation in the ducts and did a pretty thorough examination of the thermal boundary without doing a blower door. And then we came in and did one shortly after we met Gay.
Yeah, and so just for reference for folks, a blower door test is essentially what?
We depressurize the home to figure out how much air leakage is happening in the thermal envelope. So we set up the blower door test in the doorway and depressurize it to a certain pressure. And we basically record how much air is moving across the fan, and we calibrate that to see effectively how many air changes per hour per day are happening in the home. So we can test how leaky the building envelope is, which is obviously goes a really long way towards determining how efficient the home is and how comfortable too. So
yeah, great.
But the energy assessment was extremely good I think he took pictures all around and saw how much air we were leaking through, or how much heat we were leaking through the canisters in the ceiling. I mean, the light canisters and things of that nature. So we knew about more things that probably could have used work that we didn't do, but could have been done. So it was good.
That's great. And then we got one more question for you here, Tyler, about the mini splits. Does the HSPF of the mini split account for it being a ducted system?
That's a really good question, and I should know the answer. I think so. I'm not 100% sure. I mean, it doesn't take into account duct losses. And so that's kind of all after the blower, but I believe it does take into account the fact that it is a ducted system. It just is not taking the quality of the ducts into account. So from the point where it's delivering the heat into the duct system, from where it's delivering the heat, effectively into the home, you can have a lot of duct losses, and that is almost impossible to calibrate in an efficiency rating because every duct system is going to be different. In Gay's case, originally the ducts were fairly leaky, as they often are in homes that are 20 years or older. And so we did focus a lot of energy on duct sealing, but
That's great.
yeah.
So we're going to keep rolling with the Q&A here, and we're going to keep going until we're out of questions. Just really quickly, I want to remind folks that we have the website. And so again, that link, bit.ly/virtual0, and make sure that you check that out. And we're also going to be sending out a recording of this webinar, a recording of the first webinar, and a survey to get your feedback about how our very first virtual Go Zero tour was. So remember to check those things out, and let's go through some more questions here. So thank you, Gay and Tyler. Perry, we've got a couple of questions here for you. First one is, where did you source your SIP panels? Where did you get those?
They are from Premier Building Systems in Puyallup, Washington.
Great. Are there a lot of places to get SIP panels?
There are only 3 on the West Coast. There's one in Montana, the one in Washington, and one in California. I believe there is another one in Canada. But they have completely different, obvious energy guidelines than we do, so not really applicable.
All right. And then someone would like to know about the slab that you built your house on. Was there anything special about that that plays into the zero energy aspect of the home?
It's interesting because the slab was really kind of the biggest contentious point of the entire design and construction. I have friends that are building net zero SIP houses up in Seattle, and they typically always use a radiant floor system. We discussed this and modeled this quite a bit, and in talking to Bruce Sullivan, we decided not to do a radiant floor system, but instead insulated the slab with 4 inches of rigid EPS on both the stem walls and the slab, with the idea that we also have a lot of easterly facing windows that the solar gain in the morning would help heat up the thermal mass of the slab, as well as the mini splits also helping heat up the slab. So when that thermal mass gets heated up, it will stay heated up. The idea that we did the radiant floor as our primary heat source would kind of indicate that we might, heat up the thermal mass of the slab, but then after that is heated up, it wouldn't call for heat, and the air would be cold, but the slab would be warm. So we chose to go with the non-radiant floor heat.
So a lot of thinking goes into some of these different aspects of zero energy design. That's very interesting. I would not have gone through that whole internal dialogue thinking about slabs. But thank you. And folks,
Sure.
we have 2 more questions on the Q&A right now. So if you've got one on the tip of your tongue, put it in the box. I think, Perry, we've got one more, I think, that was posed during your presentation. Is there any difficulty with getting bank funding when doing a net zero project? They say they're thinking about the comps, which I don't know what they mean by that. Maybe you do. The comps they run and whether or not they factor in the value of net zero.
A bank, for the owners who are purchasing the house, they are getting a loan. There aren't any barriers to a net zero home or a SIP house and getting a loan. If you go through the Earth Advantage website, there are lenders and appraisers that are Earth Advantage certified, and net zero home actually should comp higher, or it should come in at a higher price point than a code build house for obvious reasons. And so no, there's no difficulty in getting a loan.
That's great. Yeah, there's such a clear gain, such a clear benefit economically and for so many other reasons. That makes a lot of sense. We've got more questions popping up. This is great. I love questions. So here we've got a question about landscaping, which I'm going to have to dig through. Whoever asked that question, if you could type the full question into the Q&A, I can read that out. But so I'm going to move to the next one. For Amy, can you talk a little bit more about what happens when a homeowner sells their house in this community land trust model to ensure the equity gain is shared equitably? And they say they really admire what you're doing.
Thank you. We've moved into the cooking show mode for the for the screen. Let's see. So our resale formula is fixed rate. It's 1.5% compounded annually, based off of what the loans are that the home purchaser has to take out. So we've run some numbers, like let's say someone pays $185,000 for their home and has maybe $30,000 in down payment assistance. In about 7 years, they can walk away with about $45,000 in equity, and that includes resale formula equity and money that they're paying towards their principal and not interest. Generally, that money would be going towards rent, towards someone else, but it's almost like banking it for yourself in this model. Did that answer all the questions, Zach?
I think so. Sorry.
Okay.
And then, Amy, we have the landscape question here. Did you have a landscape architect involved, and how did that influence the net zero aspect of the project?
We have a landscaper, and they made a landscape plan. I do not believe that he is a landscape architect, and I'm sorry. Winter Creek Restoration is our company. If you're a landscape architect and I got that wrong. What was the second part of the question?
Did that influence the net zero aspects of the project? Were there, I think they're asking, were there any ways in which the landscape and maybe configuration impacted the energy, or maybe how did it tie into the project overall?
Yeah.
At all?
With the irrigation part, I would say not so much, but we are doing, like, all of our pathway lighting is solar, and our community, it's a perimeter parking walk-in community. So our covered parking area will also have solar lighting.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
All right. We have a question here, John. How are your concrete countertops? So again, that's what John's venture is here with Vesuvian Forge, low energy, embodied energy concrete countertops. How are they more sustainable than regular concrete?
Hey, great question. Thank you for asking. Yeah, so concrete has a huge carbon footprint from the Portland cement. So limestone and other elements are heated up to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And then limestone, when it converts to cement, emits carbon dioxide. So in addition to the fossil fuel. So there's other elements, other compounds that we use other than Portland cement. So we use silica fume, we use CSA. We're also using biochar as our pigment to actually embed carbon, sequester carbon into our concrete product. So there's a few different techniques that we have to dramatically reduce the amount of embedded energy in our concrete products.
That's great. And I know that concrete is one of the highest energy parts of construction, and there's so much concrete that in the world that goes into construction that this is a really big question. How do we make low energy concrete? So that's great to hear what you're up to.
Thank you.
And our last question that we have in the Q&A box, unless any of you change your mind or get inspiration here in the final breath, is Perry, just a follow-up and a clarification. That the question about funding was for general contractor loans, so the loan that you receive for building.
I can't answer that question because we didn't take a construction loan out. My business partner and I are self-funding it. And so we weren't familiar with bank loans for construction. Sorry.
Totally fine. Great. Well, we are done with Q&A, and I just want to give a huge thanks to everybody involved, to our videographer, Keelan Booth, who made amazing videos. Go watch them on the virtual website. Again, that's bit.ly/virtual0. Thank you to all our homeowners who put in a ton of energy writing their stories out on the website and also prepping for today to share their stories. Thank you again to our sponsors, including our title sponsor, Energy Trust of Oregon, and our Go Zero sponsors, Green Hammer, Neil Kelly, and Elemental Energy. And thank you to amazing volunteers, including Carrie Booth for a lot of editing support, and to Promote and Kate, brand new members of the Solar Oregon team who created the virtual website and did an amazing job on it. This is, like I said, this is our second webinar that we're wrapping up here. You're going to get recordings of both, and these virtual resources will be available as an ongoing educational resource. I hope that you learned a lot about zero energy and all aspects relating to retrofit and new construction, and that you have a vision for how zero energy really is the future of housing. This has been true for a long time, but now it's a future that's here. The technology's here. It's accessible. You can even have it be cash flow positive, like Tyler was talking about, where there's no upfront cost to you. And I know that a lot of folks involved in the green building community are working really hard to make sure that all homes in Oregon eventually are zero energy. So thanks again for joining us, and please check out Solar Oregon for more great programming throughout the year. And I hope that you're having a safe and hopefully interesting time, and that this is a good resource for you. So take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time.